Let's talk about I told you so, and I just want you to think about it for a minute. All the different ways that we as parents or caregivers or teachers say that, that basically say those words, maybe not with those words, but essentially we give the same message. So a few examples are things like, what did I tell you? Right? How many of you say that? What did I say? What did I say? I told you. Or see, I knew it. I told you that would happen. Or you didn't believe me, did you? Now you know. Right? Think of this, right? This is all the ways that we say, I told you so. Okay? Hey there, Emily. Even like, what? That's what I said, remember? Do you remember me telling you that? It's exactly what I told you would happen, right? How many of you, now give me some feedback before I go on, how many of you can say, yeah, you know what, I do that? And now that you're thinking of it, now that it's brought to your attention, you're like, wow, I really do that. I do that all the time. All of those sentences I just went through are basically you saying, I told you so. And I really want to cover tonight, why we need to eliminate that from all of our talk, guilty as charged. Hey, still to this day, Hayley, sure, good to have you here, honey. So, I want to cover why. So here's what happens. Being right feels good, okay, to everybody, to us as parents, to every single person. Being right feels good. So being right, it's our way of proving our worth to ourselves, all right? It helps us be on top and feel superior. When anyone knows that they're right, we basically prove our self-worth to ourselves. And in that moment, for that one thing, we're good enough at something, okay? And so that's why everyone likes to be right. But here's the thing. Being right, it breeds resentment. And if you've got pen and paper there, I want you to write that down. Being right breeds resentment. Anytime that you, thanks for the comments, guys, I appreciate that, but I'm going to stay focused on the screen for a second because I really want to get this message out, so I'm not ignoring you, and I do thank you. And what I'll do is at the end of this, I will, once we get off Facebook Live, I'll go and check out all your comments, and if there's anything important, I'll definitely reply to it, all right? So you'll definitely get my responses. So being right breeds resentment. And the thing is, anytime, I want you to really think about this, anytime that you make yourself right about something, by default, you make someone else wrong, okay? And children, as well as adults, don't like being in the role of being wrong. So saying, I told you so, or what did I tell you, or see, I knew it, or, all those things that we just mentioned at the beginning, it really rubs their nose in the fact that they were wrong or that they were incorrect, which takes away an opportunity for them to feel good. And so what happens is, because you told me that you told me so, I now relate, the child now relates the feeling that they've got in that moment to you. So that's what breeds resentment. Oh, you just gave me that feeling. I already knew that I was wrong. You didn't have to rub my nose in it, because, that's the truth, that it's hard enough for children to accept being wrong without adding the increased pressure. Reminding them that you were right, it only makes it more difficult for, really for them to admit to themselves that they're wrong. So as soon as, and I want you to think about this, what's more powerful? You telling your child they were wrong and making them be and feel wrong, or them coming to that conclusion themselves. You think about it, if you go through the mental process of realizing you were wrong about something, it's like that information goes through an entirely different feedback loop, an entirely different, feedback system in your brain, and the outcome, the emotions that are attached to it when you arrive at the conclusion that you are wrong, it automatically, if you were wrong in a pretty bad way, you going through that process yourself brings you to a place where you might be sorry, you feel remorse, you already want to fix what you did, you've already learned a lesson and you won't do it again because you don't like the feeling that you've got, and so you don't want to create that feeling again. So in that moment, being able to realize you were wrong yourself really allows you to learn a lesson, to get growth from that, and to change your behaviors moving forwards. But as soon as you take that experience away, see, the moment that you tell your child that they are wrong and you make them feel wrong, you take that whole experience away from them. They don't get the chance now to feel those feelings and get to that conclusion themselves. They might have known they were wrong, but you putting it in their face, now their feeling of resentment and embarrassment really overrides the feelings underneath that would help them correct those behaviors. And what happens is that starts to injure their self-esteem, and a low self-esteem has to defend itself. So even though they might know they're wrong, because you created resentment between you and the child, now the child, they've got a hit to their spirit a little bit, and they've got to defend themselves now. Even if they know they're wrong, a low self-esteem has to defend itself, because that's how we claim back some self-worth. Because in that moment, I lost my self-worth. In that moment, I didn't just know I wasn't good enough myself, but it was really forced on me, the pressure of, stuffing that up or not listening to the parent or whatever. And so, yeah. So here's the thing, right? Here's what I want to say to you as parents or grandparents or caregivers or whatever. Yeah, I appreciate the interaction. If you got anything to say, go ahead and make some comments, ask some questions, make some statements. You've got to interact here, okay? I want this to really be a conversation so that we can really evolve our conversations around this. And literally next week, I'll be launching in a really big way my YouTube channel. So that, go ahead and give me as much feedback, ask me some questions, whatever it is you want on these Facebook Lives, because I can then go and elaborate a whole lot more in some longer videos and really take you through, how the subconscious mind works to really help you get to an understanding so that you can, put some new behaviors in place. So if you're getting something out of this, you need to let me know by interacting with comments or whatever it might be. So here's the thing, right? If you want to, you can be right. Go ahead and be right. You can be right about the capital of Afghanistan if you want to. You can be right about the fact that, what the teacher or the coach is going to say when the child's late. Go ahead and be right about the fact that, they should have given themselves more time to prepare for one of their homework assignments. Like, go ahead and be right. Here's the thing. If you want to be right, you can. There will be infinite opportunities as a parent for you to be right as many times as your own low self-esteem needs you to be right, okay? So you're never going to have a lack of opportunity to be right. But here's my question to you. At whose expense and at what price? Go ahead and be right if you want to, but at whose expense and at what price? If being right about the capital of Afghanistan, is it worth being right about that if it creates distance between you and your son? Is it worth being right about, I don't know, the number of days it'll take for the bloody fish to die, or, whatever it might be? Is it worth being right about that if it makes your daughter wrong and gives her that feeling of, I resent you and I don't feel good about myself right now? Is it worth saying, I told you so, this is what I said would happen, see, I knew it, I could have told you that before it even happened? Is it worth saying, I told you so, when resentment builds and connectedness completely dissolves in your family? That's my question. You can be, all right? You can be right. Would this be the same when a child does something well and you say, I told you, you should do it that way? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point, Andrew. So, Andy makes a really good point there with regards to even when the child is right. Don't take that power away from them. Again, if you tell them to do it a particular way and then they go and do it that way and they have success, don't take that moment of empowerment away from them and go, oh, I told you to do it that way. So the win's not yours, it's mine. I told you that. Oh yeah, it was me that was right. It was you that did it, but it was me that told you the idea. So I'm not going to let you have that moment of victory. Give that to me. Now, if you're doing this as a parent all the time, I will let you know that that's a sign that you've got some low self-esteem, you've got some low self-worth, and so your subconscious mind is looking for every opportunity to build its own self-worth, even at the expense of your child, even if it's against a 5-year-old or 10-year-old or a 15-year-old. All right? So you let them come to the realization that they're right or wrong. You don't need a comment. Like anything. Like, just like, if they totally come to you and go, Mum, hey, what you said was right yesterday. I really should have done it your way. Well, at least you learned. How will you do it next time? Next time, what will you do about it then? Just ask them next time. You don't even need, like, a comment isn't even warranted sometimes. Sometimes the loudest thing that you can say is what you say in your silence. Just if you want to gloat privately. Go tell your husband or your wife or a friend about how right you are. But don't be right to your child, because it really comes at a high price to them. Okay, and you know what? I mean, this is relationships full stop, not just your children. So whether they're right or whether they're wrong, if you had an influence in and you told them up front that's what would happen, don't take the moment of power in the win away from them, but also don't take the lesson away from them. Because if you want to build a child who becomes really conscious and really aware of themselves, then they've got to be open to experiencing their own thoughts and their own decisions, and being, you know, really open to, you know, basically being conscious and aware of what they think and the choices they make. And so every time you make them wrong, you put a layer between the core of their spirit and their ability to really be aware of themselves. You know, you build a layer of resentment, and the more layers that they've got, the less they're going to be able to get those lessons, and therefore become conscious people, become people who are aware and who can get growth from all of their experiences. Because you make being wrong a bad experience. And guess what? Think about this. Why do we as adults, why aren't we all chasing our dreams? Why is, you know, the majority of parents these days, they've completely lost themselves, you know, not doing anything that fulfills their lives, and just feeling lost is probably a good word to use, but too scared to go out and chase something. You know why? Because you were taught and you were made to feel that being wrong was a really bad thing. But if you want to grow, you've got to be able to see where you're wrong, because you can't make something right until you see where it's wrong. And so the reason people aren't just in their scenarios, they're stuck in their scenarios, they're not progressing from their current state, is because we're too afraid, because we were taught that being wrong and making mistakes was the worst thing I could do. And so now we don't embrace those experiences, and we don't get the growth that they could give us. So here we are 5 years later, the same person we were 5 years ago. We wonder why we're not happy. So if we don't want to raise children like that, if we want to raise a completely different generation, a generation of people that are conscious and aware and that embrace their growth and embrace their learning experiences, then we can't make being wrong feel bad. It needs to feel good to grow. It needs to feel good to realize things about ourselves. So how do you do that? By leading them to the realization themselves, and they don't need to openly say, I know I was wrong. You know that they know. You know, they know that they know. And so that's all that matters. You don't need to get that last little win on your 8-year-old, that last little power trip as a parent on your 10-year-old. If you've realized after this broadcast that these are the things you're doing all the time, take it as a moment of personal growth for yourself. If you are, without even realizing, making your children wrong all the time, well, you might not even see it as I'm making my children wrong. If you're making yourself right, by default, you're making them wrong. And you're doing that to find some self-worth, to be able to feel good enough about yourself, because being right validates us and it builds our worth. So if you are doing that, have conscious moments with yourself and allow your child the space to grow, the space to feel good through all of their experiences. All right? So from this point forwards, we remove I told you so. When they do something good, let them own it. Let them not, go ahead and take the glory. It might have been my idea, but I don't need the glory. I want you to have the go ahead, and the power's all yours. At the end of the day, you still did it. And even when they say, yeah, but you told me to, Mum, you need to hand that power back. When they hand their power over to you, you hand that right back. You know why? I tell lots of people lots of things. I've told you lots of things lots of times. Doesn't mean you do it all the time. You still had to do it. It's one thing to get information. It's another thing to do something with the information you get. That's all yours. You go ahead and claim that. All right? So that's the message for tonight. We're nearly about to hit 18 minutes, and I like to keep these definitely under 20 minutes. So if you do have anything, look, I will be active on this news feed here, or on this, conversation here. So if you do have any questions or something like that, go ahead and, make some comments, and I will reply to what I can. As I always say, never get off anything. Never leave anywhere the same person you were when you got on. So as you leave here tonight, depart from here with courage. The courage to believe in a better way. The courage to voice what you've got to say. The courage to thrive when times are tough. And above all else, the courage to know you are good enough. Good night, everyone.